Hello and welcome. My name is Carlos, and I want to give you the welcome to this table of discussion of the topic of North America. We're gonna use technology in order to talk with our friends, which are Floraine and Tash, and to discuss some important issues about what is the future for North America as a region. I'm going to talk about some economic trends and forecasts and some suggestions for the region in order to develop the case of our guest, Floraine. She's going to talk about some security issues that are important for the region. And at the end, Natasha, she's going to talk about some aspects from foreign policy that are important for the region as a whole. So welcome, and we'll start with the next topic.
Hi, my name is Natasha, and I will be briefly discussing foreign policy trends, predictions, and making some brief recommendations. Of course, making predictions about the future is quite difficult, but it is a very important part of foreign policy making. Trends can normally be interpreted to anticipate future events, and that way policies can reflect those trends. One of the factors that we can predict with pretty high certainty for the future is population growth. We can pretty confidently assume that the world's population is going to significantly increase. Some estimating that the population of the United States alone is going to be 400 million people in 2050. So, this is going to place issues like energy consumption and migration at the top of policy agendas. Also, with the rising power in Asia, pretty likely to continue, and the decreasing power of Russia, it's pretty likely that NATO is going to continue to be viewed as obsolete by the US, who will want to shift their focus on finding a way to balance out the rising power in China. Any alliances in Asia are pretty difficult to predict. However, a balancing coalition to address China's rising power is quite likely. Now, whilst overall global violence has been declining since World War II, the growing conflict in the Middle East doesn't really appear to have an end in the near future. So, this is going to be another really important foreign policy consideration for the North American countries due to the threat of the spread of violence or movement of displaced people reaching the American continent. During the 2016 summit meeting of the North American leaders, the US, Canada, and Mexico all agreed to deepen integration on international issues and to meet at least twice a year to discuss how they can coordinate better and what international issues they should address. Whilst the agenda hasn't been defined, it does provide a lot of opportunities for the new US administration to sort of foster a new, deeper cooperation with its neighbours and hopefully to formulate a harmonious foreign policy on the issues that would affect all three countries. Mexico's president announced his desire for Mexico to play a more significant role in international peacekeeping operations, which provides new opportunities for collaboration to address conflicts that affect the entire region, most notably those coming from Central America. It is difficult because there is a very strong history of mistrust between the three foreign ministries. However, some form of deepened integration is likely. Despite the sort of unknown challenges that are presented by the Trump administration in the US, some level of coordination between the North American countries is likely to continue, even if just out of sheer necessity. Due to this new US administration, it's quite unpredictable to know what approach will be taken, especially once final negotiations are made on NAFTA. But the path taken will definitely have a significant impact on a number of foreign policy areas. With the US withdrawing from the TPP, the North American partners will also need to address issues regarding how to modernize NAFTA or some other trade plan and decide if they're going to pursue either together or individually as separate countries any other alternative efforts for creating some kind of coalition on trade. With the US withdrawal, there's also the probability of other countries taking the initiative to fill the space, so a planned response is needed in case this happens. The democracy agenda in the American continent also has the potential to produce more cooperation, whether in a group of the three or in a larger coalition. The Organization of American States should be revitalized, and their practices supporting democracy and human rights need to be reinforced and protected. So, this goal of common prosperity should be pursued in order to deepen North American cooperation on both regional and foreign policy. and the willingness expressed by the US and Canada to support Mexico in their pursuit of improving its peacekeeping capabilities should also be much more clearly defined, because this would create a win-win situation for all of the northern countries. Given Mexico's sort of strategic ability with Central and South American states due to their similarities in language and culture, that would basically pave the way for the United States to have an easier way.
Hello again. I'm going to talk about what are the economic forecasts for the region. We see that it's going to be crucial what is going to happen with NAFTA, because now that Trump administration is pushing to its renegotiation, all the countries need to see what are the positive things that can get from there, what are the negative stuff that they are trying to remove. For example, they are also sharing this problem of automatization that is taking away jobs from manufacturing industry, and countries need to find new places for their employers to work. Also, it is really important that this process of renegotiation don't take to a commercial war where countries actually could get involved into imposition of tariff between them, and that could make the region lose competition, decline their production. And it is also really important that it is also really important for the region what is the manage that the countries do with the oil resources and energetic resources, because now that the United States is reducing the imports of energy resources as their production is growing, and also the production from Canada is growing, and Mexico has these new structural reforms that are trying to improve investment on the energy sector in the country. It will be crucial because the region cannot only become self-dependent on the resources, but also they will be able in the short term to become an exporter of resources that will be not only a great fount of revenues, but also crucial for their empowerment toward the global system. What are some of the policy suggestions for economy in the region? It is really important how to deal with this renegotiation of NAFTA, because countries shouldn't take a radical position in order just to leave the agreement. It is important to take what is positive from the agreement and save it and try to improve what is not that positive. For example, we now know that millions of jobs depend on this agreement, so it's important to save it. But it's also more important that benefits are not only for big companies or transnational that benefit from free trade, but that actually the population and citizens are able to see what are the positive results of this agreement. And that's why countries need to find a way to make integration and cooperation more effective and more positive for citizens, and not only for big companies.
So, hi, I'm Floraine, and after we talked about foreign policy and economy and energy, I'm now going to talk about security, trying to understand what is currently going on between the three countries, which are United States, Canada, and Mexico, and then trying to make some recommendation to get better the security system in North America. So first, we know that security, like ensures security of its population, is an universal goal for each country. Since the globalization created like interconnection between countries and states, the threats in matter of security became also global. So the threats we had into each countries, into each nation before, are now becoming global, and we had threats into the whole North American continent. So it's really important to bear in mind that the threats are now common. So to try to answer the problem of the threats and the concerns, a real communication and cooperation would be important between the three countries. And in order to get that, twice a year, Canada, Mexico, and the United States have launched a meeting to agree on national and global priorities on security. So we're going to analyze some threats present in the North America continent to try to see what's currently going on. So first of all, we have a lot of kind of threats. We have crime, organized crime, natural disaster, health epidemics, drug trafficking, and we have also new threats increasing, such as terrorism and environmental threats. So first, on refugee and migration, we know that there is a huge concerns about that between, for example, Mexico and the United States, and also coming in Canada. So the countries found an agreement to provide 10 US million of dollar of financial support through the United Nations Refugee Agency to increase the capacity of building for Central America and to help improve conditions to promote a well-managed migration. So the idea is that they understood that the main part of the migration is coming from Central America and South America, and they're trying to reduce it through the improvement of the situation in the countries. So we are now going to talk about cybersecurity, which is also an important subject and topic that the three countries talked about. So cybersecurity is a pretty recent theme, gathering all the devices and matter of risk of management. Because we know that internet doesn't have borders, it became really important to create a real cooperation on cybersecurity. So the three countries claimed the importance of an internet governance for collective prosperity, security, and commitments to democracy and human rights. So together, they partnered on an initiative to strengthen regional participation on a network which connects national law enforcement point of contact in the battle against high-tech crime. So they understood that, for example, terrorism is using internet more than ever, and it's getting really important to create a cooperation on that field. So finally, on March 23 of 2005, Mexico, Canada, and the US formed the Security and Prosperity Partnership of North America to provide a greater cooperation on security and economic issues. So we saw that this project didn't show the expected results because of a lack of coordination and the fact that the context and the future of the continent was really becoming uncertain and unstable. Like, we have to remember that 2005 is after the 11 September attacks in the United States. So we are going to give some recommendations. So security keeps being the supreme goal for each nation. Failing in this mission leads to the question of the whole efficiency of the states to ensure the security of its civilians. We saw that having borders during the 19th centuries between Mexico and the US led to terrible war, the US-Mexican War. So we don't want to give the recommendation of keep this isolationism, even though we're seeing it growing and growing in the United States since the election of Donald Trump. But we don't think closing the borders is going to lead to an increasement and to an improvement of the security between the countries. We're so giving the recommendation of keeping the borders open. Of course, if each country wants to have a control, that's remain to their sovereignty. But like, closing the borders is maybe not the best to do. And so I will conclude by saying that Golub said it appears necessary for the United States to build a multilateral coalition. So he said that after September 11th. And through this argument, we see that the sharing of information and intelligence between the states is really important to lead to a better future for all of them. Thank you very much.